Amazing. How are you today?
All good.
Good?
All good. Yeah.
Ready?
Major is in the middle, so good things are happening.
Amazing. So let me realize who actually Marek is. So I have a quick fire round of questions for you.
Okay.
So what was the first game you ever got obsessed with?
Probably Tetris, which I believe is kind of similar to my age, actually.
Fair. I probably know answer for the second one, but mouse and keyboard or controller?
Mouse and keyboard, for sure.
What's your favorite esports moment ever?
That's a tough one. Probably Richter winning TI, because essentially there are very few Slovaks in professional esports, and I was literally there. I was able to enjoy the moment. So it was the combination of Slovak proudness, esports, and the big tournament, essentially. So that was the one.
Were you crying? Were you crying?
Not to that level. Not to that level.
What's the one app you would never delete from your phone?
What's up?
If you weren't doing this, what would you do? Like this in Odin.
Before Odin, I was a banker. Not sure whether I would sustain that career, but probably I was on that route already. So probably I would stay on that route. Probably it will be more in line of fintech. So something startup-y, something fresh, but at the same time probably still banking. I was a bit rerouted by accident towards esports and betting, in a sense. Otherwise, I was heading for fintech, actually.
I would call it happy accident. What's the most underrated game, in your opinion?
Underrated. Yeah, I will go for my one. So Dota 2. It's too hard for everybody to learn. Everybody from the community is trash talking everybody. But at the same time, if you get to that level and depth and context of the game, you essentially have to love it. But to get there, that one is a huge commitment.
Amazing. And one last one. What's the last thing that made you laugh out loud?
Woo! That one is under the NDA.
Okay. I think this is amazing end of our first section of questions, and now let's get serious. So right now we're in the second half of 2025, and what we saw in 2024 was that it was seasons of esports betting data, so some wild growth, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Dota 2, and especially Valorant, also incredible gains. But while that was going on, we were working on something else, props and racing. So let's talk about why.
So from that perspective, if you look at the entire ecosystem, it is essentially growing significantly. And there are definitely certain traits between sports and esports, because it is about the same, essentially, culture thing, even though esports is more fast-paced, but essentially this is a sport for younger generation. And exactly as you pointed out, when it comes to esports, this has grown massively. We've seen that across all the titles, across all the regions. Canada, Peru, they are essentially leading the way when it comes to number of bettors as the same time as the growth. At the same time, you have Scandinavia, you have Asia to some extent. So we've seen that this is growing, but at the same time, we were asking ourselves, like, what's next? And with that being said, when it comes to player props, I would say that we got the information from a couple of sides. One was that when it comes to traditional sports, specifically in US, this is already a big market, so a lot of people are betting on players, even much more than essentially on the teams. When it comes to esports, this clicks quite nicely, because if you look at players, they are many times more followed, because to some extent they are their own personalities, they are streamers, so people can follow them. And they have even much more connection to the viewers, and I'm not speaking about bettors at all at this point in time. I'm speaking about the viewers, about the community. Many times they have much closer relationship with the community than the teams actually. And they are really big personas. So this is a very simple analogy to traditional sports and streaming as such. When people are betting on esports teams, they would definitely bet on esports players as well. And this is why we started to work on it already. We have launched the player props for esports. And so far the growth that we are seeing is growing very nicely. And also what we got as a feedback from the partners is that this is exactly what they wanted to see.
Perfect. I'm gonna pretend for a bit that I live under the rock. What is this battle royale game genre, such as Free Fire? Are we talking about some airsoft competitions?
Not at all. You can essentially think about the Hunger Games. So multiple players are being dropped on the area on the island, and they fight for survival. So essentially for the top place, and the one last stands. From the historical perspective, as much as we can speak about history in esports, as it is very young, essentially all of this starts with PUBG, and it continued with multiple different titles such as Fortnite, PUBG Mobile, Free Fire. And we are essentially speaking about kind of different sports, where usually in esports you have a team A playing team B, while in battle royales we are mostly looking like at something like horse racing. So you have multiple players and one would win. But of course those multiple players can also end up in top 5, in top 10. So we have multiple lines in there. What we've seen from the global partners is that there is definitely a bit misunderstanding of these genres, because if everybody or majority of the people and of the bookies speak about esports, to their level of expertise, they are mostly speaking about first-person shooters such as Counter-Strike, Valorant, about MOBAs such as Dota 2 or League of Legends. But essentially there is definitely a distinctive, huge market for battle royales, such as Free Fire that you mentioned. We are seeing that in Latam, we are seeing that specifically in Brazil when it comes to Free Fire. We are seeing that in Asia as well. So this is definitely, if you are living under the rock in Europe, this is definitely the perception that you will probably get. But if you are looking at the global business of esports, this is definitely not a genre that you should miss.
Nice. Now, and we've already touched it a little bit, but same for props. Let's say I want to follow Donk in Counter-Strike and bet on him wiping the floor with someone. How does that actually work?
Yeah, speaking about Donk, unfortunately he was eliminated from the major yesterday, so not anymore, at least for the major. But definitely, again, Donk is a huge persona. We might be speaking about Zaiwu, we might be speaking about Simple, we might be speaking about Monezi. All of them are essentially the personas, and even though the team underperforms, they can still overperform, right? So that's why player props are a big thing, where you can essentially significantly create a player's engagement in a way, or bettor's engagement, in a way that they can bet not just on the outcome of the teams, outcome of the match, but they can also go head-to-head how the similar levels of players will perform against each other, whether they have a certain number of kills over under, and all of this. So there's much more available right now on the market, specifically with Odin as well, where we can essentially provide these betting opportunities to the bettors and to the bookmakers.
Perfect. So we're not doing it just as an extra feature. Why is it important for sports books?
If you think about betting, all the time it is about putting your money where your mouth is. And this is what we are essentially doing. It is extra level of engagement when you are watching the game and you are personally invested into the outcome. Again, because there is much more connection many times between the players and the viewers than essentially is with the players and the teams. What we are seeing is that when it comes to player props, these definitely work nicely. And again, we have started somewhere, but we are moving in a direction where we will have much more player props that the bettors will be able to bet on. And of course, there is also the potential options to go after the streaming. And this is usually not the team as such is streaming, but the individual person is streaming. Individual, either streamer or the player. And this opens up different ways of options, how to engage directly with the players, directly with the streamers, and directly with their communities.
Amazing. So can you tell me a little bit what Odin is cooking? What's on the roadmap?
So when it comes to roadmap, essentially there are a lot of more things that we are going to announce and we are going to include in the propositions. So if you look at player props, we have started somewhere, but now we would like to take a look at number of headshots, number of clutches, number of different things that the individual player can decide within the game for himself, not just, but of course the outcome is also there for the team. When it comes to bet builder, where this works very nicely between the team results, between the player results, there will be essentially a lot of options right now that you can bet on as a combinations of multiple different things. But at the same time, we have started just with Counter-Strike 2. We have also Valorant, we have FIFA, we have NBA 2K, but we've been already working on Dota 2 and League of Legends as well. They are much more complex in that regard, but they would then also offer much more combinations. So this is when it comes to Bet Builder. Then when it comes to also what we call racing markets, or essentially the battle arenas or battle royales that we just discussed, we'll be looking at more of them. Right now we have started with the pre-match, but at the same time there are various options how to address this in live. It is much more complex. It is much more complex also from the perspective of watching the game and from the perspective of streaming, because unfortunately, if you think about, let's say, football is essentially you can drop all the players, suddenly it's only about the ball itself. You follow the ball and you know where the action is, you know where there's a score and all of that. But imagine opposed to that, you have 100 people jumping on the island, you have a one favorite that you follow, but the tournament is not going even to show you that one when he's killed. So these are the intricacies that we would like to essentially address with a couple of solutions that we are right now working on, not only from the perspective of betting, but mostly from the perspective of viewership. Because as you are invested into the bet, it will be crazy if suddenly you just learn that, sorry, the dude you just essentially bet on, he died somewhere in the corner, you didn't even see that. And this is what we want to essentially at some point in time fix, and we have a couple of solutions for that. And then the betting can be essentially the incremental element part of that. But before the viewership experience and is essentially fixed, there will be not much about it. And it's more about doing more. So we are looking at adding more markets for Dota 2, more markets for Counter-Strike, more markets for many other titles. And all the time we are essentially looking for what might be the next big thing. Valorant was not a thing 6 years ago. Right now it's a growing title, I would say distinctive number 4, number 5. So again, we are looking for what's next.
Perfect. All of that sounds very interesting. But tell me, I don't think we do it just because we decided to do it, right? Like how we decide that we're gonna do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe one of the feedbacks that we are getting from the clients, from the bookmakers, is that we actually listen. But I don't mean just we listen, we actually listen. So we are asking them, what do you believe would work in your portfolio? What should we work on next? Either when it comes to titles, when it comes to markets, when it comes to new functionalities, such as bet builders, such as player props, such as multiple other things. And on top of it, there is essentially the layer where we have the risk management with many of our clients. So we see the incoming bet slips. So we know what sticks, what works, what the bettors are betting on. Even if we launch a new product, we can, from the market, see the demand for it, but at the same time, our margin on it. So if it is bet on a lot, but at the same time margin is not great, we can essentially immediately fix that. If the volume is significantly growing, we can say, okay, we should do more of that. So it is essentially the feedback from the market from both the bookmakers as well as bettors. And last but not least, we have people passionate about esports inside out when it comes to Odin. So they are coming with their own ideas. They are coming up with the ways how we can address certain things differently. So I would say it's a triangle of where we are getting the feedback from the market, from two sides that we work with, but at the same time we have our own say. And by combining these elements, we are able to stay on top and constantly come up with the fresh ideas, the ideas that we receive from the partners, and essentially make them happen.
Perfect, amazing. I can't wait to see what 2025 and 2026 brings. I could speak with you for another 30 minutes, but thanks for catching up with me. And let's see what Odin brings in the rest of the year.
Absolutely. Pleasure as always.